There's songs like that, songs about prayer. It continues to be a fundamental place of potential misunderstanding, that it's important that for each one of us individually and as a collective of humanity, continue to understand that prayer does something to the one praying. That's the only thing that it does. And that when we get together as a collective and pray perhaps with the same intention, that just means that a group of people are walking in the same direction. But it's one of the fallacies of prayer to think that somehow my prayer is going to make somebody else over there do something different. That what we have to do is take responsibility for our own lives. And if I want something different to happen in a different place, I have to be a certain way about it and have adult and mature conversation about it. And have perhaps through the act of debate, the act of mature conversation, maybe change somebody's mind, maybe have my mind change. And being willing to do that. Prayer does something to the one praying. Prayer does something to me. Prayer does something to my capacity to perceive that where I thought there was misunderstanding and a lack of harmony, to all of a sudden be able to see harmony. Prayer does something to my heart when I'm walking around in fear, to all of a sudden walk around in faith. As Ernest Holmes was articulating to us, these simple statements of truth are simple prayers that does something to my consciousness. And if we understand that each prayer does something to me, then I take more responsibility for my life and how I show up in the world, and release a little bit more of this life is happening to me and embrace more of this I'm actually happening to life. And then I experience the effect of my cause. Are you with me? That I cause myself into life. That we live in this existence in a cause and effect world. And so if I want my world to be different, I got to get busy seeing it differently. I have to get busy perceiving it differently. The same act could be happening. But if I want to see it differently, I have to do the work necessary in order to perceive it differently. This is good news. That I can do something about life. That I can do something about my life. It's a playground of consciousness, if you will. A playground of perception. Man, sometimes with the spiritual work, we just hold it so heavy. Like, I don't know why, but sometimes it just seems like heavy lifting, like, man, the world's all messed up. We listened to that sermon, the piece of the sermon by Dr. King a few months ago. Was anybody here for that? Do you remember? He's like, the world's all messed up. We got hate. We got misunderstanding, and a lot of us get sucked into the drama of it the same way we get sucked into a television show. And we just become entertained by it, and we become victimized by it. And it almost is like watching a television show, and that we just kind of like watch it happen. And we just kind of watch it happen. And then the part of us that doesn't think we can do anything about it, it's just we get up off the couch and go to bed. Rather than realizing that we play as metaphysicians. You're sitting here today because part of you is a metaphysician, right? That means you are a physician of that which is beyond the physical. You're a doctor of your own consciousness. And you have capacity to do something about stuff. And that creates a community of people that are free inside. Man's Search for Meaning. Anybody know the book? Man's Search for Meaning. Who was the author of that? Viktor Frankl. The pit of hell. Pit of hell. None of us can even imagine that. I'm guessing. And I know a lot of us have experienced our own types of hell. And we can testify to it for sure. Said, you can do something to my body, but you can't do anything to my mind. You can do whatever you want to my physical person, but you can't touch my mind. That's power, isn't it? That's power. Concentration can. Like all the hell that, we don't have to paint too much of a picture. You get it. You can do whatever you want to my body, but you can't touch my mind. That's strength. So today I want to explore a little bit more this idea of welcoming the challenges of our lives. And I want to explore them in three different areas: spiritually, physically, and socially. Because I think it's before us today, and I think it's important that we continue to do the work necessary to embrace the freedom that we were born with. Some of that freedom was, most of us have had stuff that's happened in our lives, right? Nobody's just gone through with a bed of roses laid out that you've just walked by, or not even had to walk, you just kind of hovered over your life, right? That hasn't happened to anybody. We have stuff that affects us, and stuff that affects us, a lot of it at a young age, when we were impressionable and could be affected. We didn't have so much discernment. And then we grow and mature, and we take these, most of us that haven't done any little bit of therapy, realize that we take that little bit of, or a lot of that harassment or abuse or input or whatever it might have been, and we drag that along with us through the course of our lives. And that becomes our body of work. And it's unique to each one of us. And we ought to have compassion for ourselves and compassion for each other, because we really don't know what's happening inside of somebody else until they walk up and say, "This is what's happening inside of me." Right? We don't know. And so each of us are dealing with these challenges. And what would it mean to actually welcome the challenges of our lives rather than trying to get rid of them? But if we welcome them, eventually what's going to happen is we're going to heal them, and we'll be rid of them anyway. Anybody in here ever healed from something? Like, in other words, what that looks like generally is you're not dealing with the same stuff now that you were dealing with 20 years ago. Right? You've healed somehow. So you've welcomed the challenge, you've gone to therapy, you've gone to church, you've talked to your minister, you've talked to your friends, you've wailed and kicked and screamed and cried and done all the stuff, and you've healed somehow from it because you've acknowledged it and you walked through it, whatever these things might be. And there's still things that are before us because we're human beings still. And so we're still dealing with challenges. There's still things before us that are like pebbles in our shoes, perhaps, or a boulder in our whatever else you carry around or wear. Pebbles and boulders, sometimes big, sometimes small, but they're there. So what would it mean to actually lean into the challenge of our lives and to embrace them? Physically, what are some of the types of things that we deal with, as long as we have a human body? Reconciling our body image, right? Standing naked in front of the mirror and going, "All right, I can live with that. That wasn't too real." Standing naked in front of the mirror and going, "That is my body. Can I love it? Is there something I want to do about it? And then am I willing to do something about it?" I mean, I've directly connected my posture to the size of my stomach. If I walk around more like this, you're going to see less of this. If I walk around more like this with good posture, you're going to see more of this. There's a little inside of Charles, right? So I walk around with horrible posture because then I cave in on myself. Because sometimes when I look in the mirror, I go, "Man, that belly's big." And that's my walk with it. Everybody's got a different walk. And someone can look at my belly and go, "Please, you have no belly." And I look in the mirror and go, "Look at that belly." You with me? It's always better when we get down to the real stuff, isn't it? Reconciling your body image. Have I reconciled my body image? This is a challenge that most of us, because our spirit is so, let's go back out like 30 million miles and look at our body from 30 million miles away. Your soul somehow said yes to this body. Isn't that wild? Somehow you got from a divine idea in the mind of heaven, and then you became here to make manifest the glory of God. And then the rest of it is the playground that we play in of how do I make manifest the glory? And this is the body temple that we've accepted. And similar with our consciousness, there's something we can do about it if we want to. Or not. One's not right and one's not wrong. There simply is what is. And I'm offering you today, and as I'm offering myself, that if I want to walk through the world in more peace, then sometimes I have to do something about something, and it's challenging. So there's my body image. There's the amount of strength that I have. Do I want to get stronger? Do I want to be able to use this tool for more things? What if I want to get stronger? What do I need to do? Pump some iron, right? If I want to get my heart stronger, I got to go do some exercise of some sort. These are challenging things to do. The people that love going into the gym, it's like, you're nuts, man. You're crazy. Who are you? Why do you love that? Number one, and number two, I think you're lying. No one can love that. Self-inflicted so much. Because what we have is this body to wield life. What are we going to do about it? I say we get busy reconciling, that I get busy reconciling, to be able to stand in front of the mirror and go, that's my body. No one else is around, by the way, all right? We're not going to put a mirror up here and one at a time come up and go, right? That's terrifying. That's horrifying. Just you in front of the mirror. That's my body. Can I love it the way this is it? Can I love it the way it is? And if there's something to do about it, do about it. That's physically. Socially, to welcome the challenge of the social environment in which we live. The world is mad. Not mad angry, but mad crazy and mad angry. It's part of the madness that we live in. How am I going to wield my mind to meet the world that we live in? Part of the spiritual path is to not deny our humanity, but to fully embrace it, because that's why we're here. You chose it. Somehow I've come to the belief deeply. I've heard it for my entire life. Oh no, you're here because you chose it. You chose to be here somehow. Like, what? Okay, I can go along with that. I hear it. I just regurgitate it. We chose to be here. But as soon as I became a dad, I realized, okay, she chose to be here. Now I really get it. Her name's Milagro on purpose. She had the most minuscule, tiny, infinitesimal window to come into this world, and she did. So now I get we choose it. So I chose to come into the world again, maybe. I don't know. At this particular time, do I want to be a victim of it, or do I want to do something about it? I love the work that I do at the teen center. Not to pat myself on the back or anything like that, but I want to do something about it in my local environment. I started reading this book called The Anxious Generation. Just the title of it. Just the title of it, The Anxious Generation. And the author talks about, and then another book called 15 or 10 to 25, and what happens in development during those times. The Anxious Generation, the author talks about in real time that our children are being influenced like a direct connection, not with life as it is. It's the same as any other addiction. It's not life on life's terms. It's life in fantasy land, you see. And so me, myself, and I, what do I want to do about this in this time that I live in? How do I want to accept the challenge that's before me socially, the social constructs that we have? Whether you're left, right, center, I don't care. There are decent human things that are. We were talking about this a little bit at home the other night, like just basic human decency. Whatever your political leaning is, man, at some points, come on. Let's get back to being just basic, decent human beings, all right? There's a way to be basic, decent human beings. And so when I consider myself as a spiritual being and that I chose to be here at this particular time, what can I do? How can I wield my mind to be a citizen of contribution? Not an announcer, not the play-by-play person about how bad it is, but how can I get in the game and accept the challenge of what's before me in my local environment? I said this, I'll continue to say it, I believe in it deeply. There will be no world peace until there's however many billion people on the planet experiencing personal peace. Because we can have 7.99999 billion people experiencing personal peace and one person running amok. The goal is personal peace. And am I up to it? Am I accepting the challenge of finding personal peace? And then welcoming that personal peace into having an effect in my local environment. I realized so much that I walked around with a chip on my shoulder. Man, I hate it when I get up here and tell it myself. It sucks. But I just realized I'm botherable a lot. Like I go through it, I'm at peace. You know, we show up at the pumpkin patch yesterday and I'm at peace. And I'm like, yeah, let's go have a good time. And as soon as I find out how much it is per person to get into this thing, my peace is gone. It's gone. Not only that, but then once you pay this amount, you get in there, you got to pay for other stuff once you get in there. I mean, I'm thinking they'll at least throw a pumpkin in for this thing, right? No, depending on the size of the pumpkin, you got to pay for that too. So now I'm on till, right? Now I'm like, this door guy tells me not to stand in front of this door for my own well-being because it might swing open and hit me on my head. And so I'm walking away from the door like this. Because I'm bothered. I realize how botherable I am. And I realize how much pain I'm in when I'm like that. You know what I mean? It's good to laugh at it. I want to be able to laugh at it. I want to be less botherable. I think I'm just Reverend Charles and I'm at such peace. And then as soon as I meet life, that peace is gone. It's the body of work that we have. But I do have an interest in being peaceful. I do have an interest in contributing to my local environment. I do have an interest in experiencing a community of peace and well-being. The last piece I wanted to present is spiritual. Welcoming the challenges spiritually. How do I welcome the challenge spiritually? How can I continue to practice being sourced by something that's invisible when I'm so seduced by that which is visible? How do I accept that challenge? Can I accept the challenge of being sourced by an invisible presence that makes itself known in the visible, but in the visible, it goes through a bunch of filters, doesn't it? And it looks like Reverend Charles when he's on till. But to go back inside, and that's what prayer is so important for. Can I spend just a little bit more time in prayer today? A little bit more time in those affirmative statements, a little bit more time in those direct, simple statements, as Ernest Holmes called them, to get myself right, to get myself off tilt, to get myself in balance, to get myself more dignified, to get myself more centered, whatever you want to call it, so that I can then be that spiritual force socially with my physical body to make a difference in my environment. Are you with me? Can I spend just a little bit more time in prayer? A little bit more time being sourced. Where's your food source? Is it sourced locally? Where's your spiritual food source? Where's it sourced? Is it sourced from that original, organic place that knows fundamentally the majesty of who I am, that I can connect with it, and then live from there? What do the challenges of our lives do? They purify us, they embolden us, they empower us, they clarify us, they ensure us, bring us confidence and a greater joy. What are the deterrents to those? The Satans of our life, the adversaries, those things that will cut us down, the fears, the misunderstanding, the misuse, the lack of integrity. To spend a little bit more time, a little bit more of our physical time studying that which is life-giving, feeding my brain, feeding my heart, feeding my soul, feeding my body with that which I would call good, with those things that I would call life-giving. Why welcome the challenges of my life? Why do all of these things? Who cares? I mean, I can bring it all the way back to understanding that I live in this harmony, and in this harmony, there's room for misunderstanding and misuse and hatred and all of these things, that I can come back and see that there's a harmony in all of that too. So who cares? At some point, individually, we have to choose to care. And what I've come down to is this: that feeling peaceful is better than feeling not peaceful. That being in joy fundamentally feels better than being in hatred. That walking in faith fundamentally feels better than walking in fear. that my experience of this life is fundamentally better when I choose those things that are life-giving. I wake up with even a little bit of enthusiasm about the day. And I spent years waking up with, oh man, here we go again. We got to do this thing all over again. This day, this thing called today, we got to do it all over again. And then we start to discern. Oh, just even a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of love, a little bit of joy, a little bit of hope, a little bit of possibility makes life easier to swallow. Have you found that? That's why. Because in God's house, it said there are many mansions. There are many schools. There are many choices that can be made. That's what Scripture tells us in the Bible. You can do whatever the heck you want with your life. You can do whatever the hell you want with it. You can do whatever the heaven you want with it. But we begin to discern and learn, don't we? Some things are just better. They're just better. And then we find ourselves smiling a little bit more. We find ourselves a little bit more excited to pray and be in our spiritual practice and meditate and be in fellowship and community with others and read life-giving things. This is why we welcome the challenges of our lives to purify ourselves, to get to know ourselves even a little bit better, so that we can stand right in front of life, right in front of the mirror of life, naked or not, and say, I am. And we can hear the voice of the Spirit saying, I am what thou art what I am. And then peace washes over us. Some sort of greater understanding about what really is going on here. Physically, spiritually. What was the third one? Socially. That's what's up, gang. That's what I got to share with you today. So it is. If you are interested in holding the hand of the one you came with, you could do that. Or just be right here themselves. Prayer does something to the one praying, so we don't need to belabor the point. We'll just know that there is a spirit. I know that there is a spirit, a living spirit. And if you notice, not once today during the service, as I use the word God, not until just now. Oh, but there's something that we celebrate. There's something from which we come. There's something that is our life that is a broader, bigger, infinitely more intelligent intelligence than we are, that we celebrate, that we point to, that our lives celebrate. They point to. It's the thing that gave life to us, and our life is meant to be a celebration of it, one way or the other. And within it are many mansions, are many houses. I invite us today to choose that which is life-giving. Choose that which is loving. Choose that which is more beautiful. Is that we're a little bit more in the flow of life, a little bit more in the flow of that goodness. What does it sound like in song, Susan? So